Good evening. It's 6:30, and I'd like to call to order the Guilford Select Board meeting of Monday, 27 December 2021. Welcome all, welcome public. Nice to see some familiar faces there. And the rules of procedure are on the desk here. And the rules of procedure govern how we interact with each other, that being the public and the Select Board. And the basic premise of that is that we are civil and we raise our hands to be recognized. Are there any changes to the agenda order?
I do not have any.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Michael. Verandah, you're seconding? Verandah has seconded. Is there any discussion? I'll take the roll then. Verandah?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Zahn?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Now over to you, Mr. Zambrowski. For the highway report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Not much going on. All we've been doing is spreading material, hauling sand, salting. And it's going to be another early morning tomorrow because we're supposed to have some cramp tonight.
Yeah,
Supposed to be another mixed bag of,
wicked weather.
yeah, a lot of ice. We used a lot of sand this weekend and a lot of salt. So
Yeah, they're holding up, right?
yeah, we stockpiled sand today, and hopefully we won't use too much tomorrow, and we'll stockpile some more. And I just ordered my first 2 loads of salt this morning. So far so good. So.
And the new truck is running well?
Everything's, we got 1 truck down right now with some spring issues, but other than that, everything's running good.
Okay. Does the select board have any questions?
No.
I would just like to say thank you for working on Christmas.
Well,
Keep us safe.
Yeah.
Most
Really
appreciated.
amazing, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, it's that time of year. I wish we'd get a good old snowstorm instead of this rain.
Yeah, this is the worst.
The rain's,
I hate it.
yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
on to new business. And would you extend our thanks to the crew, please?
Yep, well,
We're very grateful.
Yep.
New business, the Guilford Volunteer Fire Department Capital Fund Distribution Request. Peter.
Yes, the fire department trustees have requested the funds for their capital plan to be dispersed. As these funds were, sorry, I need to let somebody into the meeting here. As these funds were approved for voters at town meeting day this past March, the select board can't prevent the payment. However, due to the large amount of the payment, the select board does need to approve the check being cut. So this is for their capital improvement plan. It was $35,000 approved by Guilford voters. And I have shared the formal written request from the select board. So we just need someone to make a motion to approve payment to them.
Disbursement.
Yep, correct.
Do I have a motion to approve the disbursement, which is, thank you, Verandah, and Zahn, you're seconding? Thanks. Is there any discussion? Okay, Verandah?
Oh, aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Zahn?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. That motion carries, and thank you very much.
Richard, I think we should recognize the work that our fire department did with other departments in the recent terrible fire
Yes.
on Route 5.
Thank you, Verandah. Let the minutes reflect our recognition of the good work and the hard work of the Guilford Volunteer Fire Department, particularly in regard to that fire on Route 5. Thank you for that suggestion. On to discussion of the Finance Advisory Committee's recommendation on the library edition. This is a touchy, difficult, complex situation. The select board approved that we have a feasibility study of adding onto the library. We have a consultant who's working on that task. We have architects who are designing the addition. There is a sources and uses budget that has been created, which has gone over what anyone had originally thought that. And the Finance Advisory Committee recommends that that the town not go forward with that, and instead build a multi-purpose building somewhere in Guilford that would house the library along with other services. I have to say personally, I disagree with that recommendation, and my thought is that this is a subject that the select board should put forward to the town. I'm not expecting a vote this meeting. This is just a discussion. So we'd like to hear what others have to say. Our consultant is here, and we have news of sources that we want to share, potential sources that we want to share with the Finance Advisory Committee and the public and the Select Board. And who would like to take that on? Isaac, would you like to share that about the bond bank? Or Peter?
Either way, whatever you want.
Peter, why don't you do it, because it involves the town's finance.
Sure. And I was the one that was approached. So I received both a phone call and an email from an employee at the Vermont Bond Bank wanting to touch base with me in one sense on a completely different topic relating to a bond that Guilford had taken out about 12 years ago for the project of building the housing development over in Algiers Village to bring potable water from Brattleboro to that project. Through a variety of things, other funding sources, in short, that those bond funds were never utilized by the town to pay for that because it wasn't needed. And in simplest terms, those funds are sitting in a bank account with US Bank. And the bond bank was reaching out to the town to see what we were going to do with those funds, as the town has one final payment to make to pay off that bond. And through the discussion with the representative from the bond bank, in noting that there are no more expenses outstanding for that portion of the project, what the town can do with those funds, and brought us to the topic of the project at the library. And we had a few questions and ended up setting up a second follow-up meeting with the bond bank with Richard and Isaac Wagner, and discussed with them whether it would be feasible to use these funds for the current project. So the funds amount to $195,000, and as I'm sure Isaac and Richard can talk as well, but it's anticipated that the town would potentially need to finance up to $400,000 for this project, not to exceed $400,000 at this point in time. And so to potentially have $195,000 of that to be able to use, and there are some caveats to that, but those caveats are now not insurmountable hurdles for us to get over. It would mean that we would really only then need to finance approximately $205,000 of that $400,000. So there's a lot more detail to it than just that, but which would include needing to go before Guilford voters for a bond vote. But it would mean that we wouldn't have to finance $195,000 of the total. Is that a good enough summary?
Sure. Isaac, do you have anything to add to that? Isaac Wagner is the Select Board's consultant to the Library Addition project, and has been very helpful in getting the feasibility study done.
Yeah, if I could take 5 minutes, maybe I'll just back up a little bit for everybody's purposes. And we covered this a little bit at the Select Board, at a public hearing a couple of weeks back and other hearings. But what we did last year And what we kind of finished up early part of this year was a feasibility study asking sort of the bigger picture questions of why, how, and how much would it be to expand the library to meet its current needs for services at its current location. And so what we were able to do is identify all the obstacles and then come up with some options, but at the end of the day, there weren't that many options. This is kind of what you would need to do if you wanted to expand the library at that particular location. So we did that. And then subsequently, we sort of changed designers after so the feasibility study is a public document. Anybody wants to read it, contact Peter. He can email it to you. You can look at it. It's already a little bit dated because we've subsequently hired a new architect who has taken some opinions sort of in a different way. Not only opinions, he's interpreted the code requirements for a municipal entity differently. And I think when Richard said the project costs have gone up, I think the biggest single challenge was that our architect has said, if it's a municipal building and you're going to expand it, it needs to be universally accessible. And in order to be universally accessible, you need to have a full elevator in that building. You can't get away with a lift. You can't get away with other sort of nonsense. It's got to have a full elevator. So with the feasibility study and with the additional work that the architect has done since we finished the feasibility study in May, we have a pretty solid feel for what the cost and the scope and the look and the shape and the permitting requirements, and we have a pretty good sense of the whole need for the location. And once we got that sense, we realized we can't do it all on grants. I think initially we'd hoped we could do it all with grants. We wouldn't have to do any borrowing. So we modeled out we'd probably have to borrow about $400,000. And as a result of that, Peter and I put together a USDA rural development application just about a week and a half ago, submitted that to them for some pretty preferential rates and terms through that department. And then no sooner did we submit that than we started this discussion with the bond bank. So it looks like the borrowing we believe would be required by the town, would be about a third at this point, about a third of the overall cost. And it would actually be pretty inexpensive. Even if we just went with RD, it's pretty inexpensive borrowing. But if we're able to go with the money you've already paid in to the bond bank, the money that's sitting there would be very low rate of borrowing for a project of this size. So I'll stop there. I just wanted to give some background to why we're talking about bond bank all of a sudden. And I'll stop there. And if anybody has any questions, you can ask me.
Any questions or comments? Yes, Sheila.
I don't understand from what Isaac is saying and from what Peter is saying what the impact on what the loan amount would be. I'm understanding a lower interest rate than you had anticipated, but I don't know if that USDA loan is now half of what it would be, or so I'd like to read what the Finance Committee shared with the Select Board so that I make sure that I say what the committee thought we have not taken into consideration this new data, and I can't actually figure out tonight how to integrate it. So I'm just going to go ahead and share with everybody what we, as the Finance Committee, shared with the Select Board members. And I'm just going to read it. So what we communicated with the Select Board was that there was universal dismay at the large expenditure required to renovate the library. We recalled the concern among residents at the modest approximately $375,000 spent to renovate the town office, and anticipated that, especially in these times, library trustees and the Select Board might encounter opposition to taking out a substantial USDA loan of $400,000, which the figures that we had a few weeks ago would cost the town about $18,000 in debt payment annually for 30 years. The Finance Committee instead urges the select board to consider creating a multi-purpose facility that would house a variety of town services in a central location to serve as large a percentage as possible of town residents. And that would be library, senior center, early childcare center, food pantry, Guilford Cares equipment, et cetera. And I would add one note to that having listened tonight to what Isaac said, that the costs of complying with the municipal building code could, in such a facility, be shared between the town and nonprofits in the town. So our first recommendation, excuse me, was to consider creating a multi-purpose facility. Excuse me. We went on to say to the select board that one possibility would be to eliminate both the library and the meeting house and use the freed up property for an expanded use facility. Probably a more reasonable option would be to build on town office land, perhaps also acquiring adjacent land, and to create a multi-use facility in the true heart of the town, school, town offices, town services, etc. The Finance Committee understands that there could well be reluctance to moving away from the meeting house and the current library, but feel that doing so might open up other possibility for those two sites. Because something has always been that way doesn't mean it's best to keep going that way. And finally, keeping in mind the admonition to go slowly and think big with ARPA funds, the Finance Committee feels that a multi-use facility will help build a more resilient community and serve the town's residents far into the future. So that is that's the recommendation of the Finance Committee in full. I don't know if other members want to comment of the Finance Committee, which there are a couple here, want to comment on that.
Are there any comments or questions regarding that recommendation? Well, I have a comment. I think that it would be prohibitively expensive to build what the Finance Advisory Committee is advising. I would say it would be in the range of at least $10 million. I would say that to find a place where there's good water and septic storage in the center of our town is not going to be easy, and that our town should want to preserve the historic value. The library is an historically preserved building, and I also think that there may not be the kind of need that you're describing for the services to have a facility that you imagine.
Someone's got their hand up.
Okay, Ann Montgomery, is that you?
Nope.
Oh,
Ann
sorry.
Ryder.
Ann Ryder.
Oh, hi, Ann.
Hi. As a member of the Finance Advisory Committee, one thing that I liked that Sheila said was slow down, go big, but go slowly. I think the idea that you just referenced, Richard, and that Sheila had introduced, the idea of a multi-purpose structure, is interesting, but it's not a decision one would make in a snap. And I do want to just say that the Finance Advisory Committee was not unanimous in the idea of, quote, eliminating the library and the meeting house. I too value their historic value and would not in any way want them razed, torn down. But I do feel that we need to look at other options in a comprehensive way. And I am concerned about the cost of doing this kind of renovation to our lovely little town library that I love and support. But I'm concerned about the price tag for that. So.
Thanks, Ann. Anyone else? Yes. Is that Gordon?
Yeah, and I sorry, my hand coordination on my computer is lacking. I just want to reiterate really what Ann said. And Richard, I don't think anyone's challenging that to pull a space together to create a multi-use space for the town would not be a more costly way to consider moving into the future. But we have so many of our nonprofits that are essential to the town of Guilford that right now are struggling in so many ways. that not having a building to, allow them to do what they're trying to do for our community is only going to be a bigger issue as the days go forward, in my opinion, from what I've heard from the nonprofits that I've heard from. So I think what the Finance Committee was simply, trying to do was look a little further into the future and come up with a means or a way to rethink the process a little bit that might give us as a town a much healthier future, particularly for our nonprofits. As far as the current library building is wonderful. When Isaac's, recommended or proposed renewal or rebuild, no one's questioning it wouldn't be an improved space for what it does. But the question becomes, it would be solely for the library, and it'd be solely for a library over, some period of time. The world is changing so quickly right now. No one is discounting the fact that the library is not an important piece of it. It just, the look of the library may be different, and we may be able to create a space that would, using the funds that we're talking about, to make it a more effective space for the future, and encapsulating the other nonprofits that are struggling with space and places to be, including, you're right, the sewer and water is a big piece of that complex for all of these nonprofits. But so, and again, to reiterate what Ann said, this wasn't a decision that we're saying, oh, this is what you should do. It's really just more, let's consider it and think about this a little bigger. I know a lot of time and energy has gone into this library project, but I think what the Finance Committee was saying was maybe there's, even though we've spent some money on this, is this really the right direction for the town for the long term? So maybe reconsidering how we approach it might be beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Yes, Laura?
Hi, everyone. I appreciate what you just said, Gordon. What I'm hearing is that right now is a time to really think about the future. I really appreciate that. And that's really important. And I think related to that, yes, the world is changing rapidly. And I think part of what we need, in addition to thinking futuristically, like all-purpose building and so forth, which, yes, might be very useful. But my question is about the library being part of that. And I'll tell you why. My big thing is with the world changing, I think more than anything, we need a village. We need village centers. And there are a lot of groups, the Recreation Commission, the Planning Commission, the library, that have developed the Weeks Trail, that have created the Playscape, that have made direct contact and interaction with the library. It's amazing to watch kids and their amazing use of all that space. So I think that's one way of thinking forward about the future, is a vibrant village center. Yes, the school is awesome. And yes, that's a heartbeat for families. Yes, town government is based there, absolutely. The library is not a nonprofit, as we all know, it's a municipality. And so I would like to have us keep thinking about continuing with this work of giving a lot of possibilities for Guilford Center Village. Doesn't mean it's exclusive of the school and the center there. Well, not the center, but the area there. So I'm just wanting to voice the power and the importance of Guilford Center Village as a vibrant place for the whole town. That's my.
I'm strongly in support of what Laura just said, and really think it's in our best interest to invest in the existing facility. I'll just go on record saying that. I think it's a beautiful space, a historic building, and we should respect the building, and I'd like to see it be improved.
Thank you.
I don't think it's an astronomical amount of money. I would agree with Richard that a multi-purpose building could easily be $10 million, $15 million, $20 million, just in my experience in construction. It would not surprise me at all. So it costs money to build things. And I don't think the price tag is that high. I've been thinking about what we spend on vehicles for the highway department. I think those are essential purchases. When you think about $1 million in vehicles over the course of 10 years, I think to spend $1 million on a library, you know, in a span of 100 years, think about it. It's not that much from my perspective.
Thank you, Michael. I saw John Shaw's hand up.
Hi, yes. I also wanted to add that I guess that I think the library as a town institution is a open, accessible place that is can serve the whole community. And so the idea that we need to add other nonprofits in order to serve the community, I think is, I guess kind of pulling us in a different direction that we don't need to be. And the other thing that I'd like to say is that with the addition that we have planned includes a community room, which can be used by any other group that would like a space. It would not be like a permanent home for these other groups, but it would be and then on the timing thing, I think if we want to say that if we were going to go slow, I love going slow, by the way, but if we want to step back and go slow and try to do this larger building, I feel like we're talking like 5 years down the road, maybe that might happen. And we've already put, I think, almost 5 years of time into this. And so I guess I worry about things just getting lost and into the ether. So just as my 2 cents, I guess.
Hand up.
Yeah, Rusty?
Yes, I'll tell you the few problems I have with it is for the taxes in general. Our salaries are going to go up quite a bit this year, and to add that much more money, because it's all coming from our taxes, we don't have any business here really to speak of. And to me, there's only the parking spaces are going to be limited there, so you're going to add all this thing, and there's going to be no place to park. And the maintenance of the place, or are we going to need a maintenance man there? That's going to be extra money, and that's not being thought of. A lot of people's money aren't going up, and that would actually add a lot to our taxes.
Thank you, Rusty. Isaac?
Yeah, I don't know how to put my hand up electronically, so I haven't quite figured that out yet, so I'm just going to do it manually. Just a couple of quick comments. First of all, some of you may know I've been working in Guilford, but I'm not a Guilford resident, so I'm in some ways disinterested. I have a disinterest in this discussion, and more of an objective one. But I'm pretty aware of Guilford and how it works. I've done several pretty big projects in Guilford, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of an alternative proposal of a center, of a broader center, which, by the way, is a great idea. I've seen it work in other communities. In this case, it's going to be tricky for a couple of reasons. First of all, as a practical matter, we've done multiple feasibility studies in Guilford now over the years, and there's very little space to do anything of the size and magnitude we're talking about of a multi-purpose building. I've run across it over and over and over again. It's really hard to find space in Guilford, particularly space that has any water and sewer capability. And if you don't get on a town water and sewer, you're into like almost double your space to build in a septic system and well setbacks. And so it's really challenging to find the space. So I'll just let that sit, and I only feel free to say that because I have a lot of experience looking for space in Guilford and not a lot of experience finding it. The other thing I would say is, if you haven't had a chance, please take a look at our feasibility study, because as John and others have pointed out, the library's been working on this a really long time. And our feasibility study has a 4-page executive summary. If you don't want to read through the whole thing, you can just read through the bulleted executive summary and get a flavor for the things we looked at. And when we tried to look at the village area, the spaces that were available, the Brattleboro Community Center, the school, the town office, the space, and develop a space that would work for the library's programmatic needs, but also a space that would complement others and not replicate, but complement other spaces in the community. So we have what we're calling a children's activity room that is doored and accessed separate from the rest of the library stacks, allowing the community to be able to use it. John had mentioned that earlier. I think that would be a great community room space, and one that's smaller than anything that you have at the Broadbrook Community Center, but larger than, say, at the town office if you needed to find a place to meet the town office. So it's a good complementing space. And finally, I would say, in terms of the budget, I mean, it's I'd be careful just throwing around, this is going to cost $1 million and it's all on the taxpayers' back. That's never been a proposal, that it's going to be all on the taxpayers' back. Our best estimate right now for construction costs is $887,000 for construction costs, and there's other soft costs to put it together, totaling just over $1 million. That's our best guess right now. But at this point in time, I'm looking at the budget on this screen. Like I said, only 30% of that would be borrowed by the taxpayers. A good percentage of it has already been saved by the taxpayers for this project. And a very large percentage of it for a municipal project is being raised by nonprofits and through grants. So it's blended financing. And, I think the library has been cognizant that borrowing would be a difficult challenge for this project, but I think with all the other sources we're putting into it, it's a legacy project that makes, you get a lot of bang for your buck for what you're trying to do, on this site. So I'll leave that. Those are all my comments that I just wanted. I just want to make sure that we're clear in our terms when we talk publicly about this, and not, try to change what is actually the situation. So.
Thank you, Isaac. And I'm glad you pointed it out that we moved forward with this project at the very beginning, which was several years ago, because it was put into the town's capital improvement plan to improve the library and to set aside money for the library. I was wondering, Isaac, if thank you for your articulate explanation there. If you could put up just a picture of the draft, current draft design, which I think is fantastic. And I will take other comments. We have to move along soon, but this is sort of town government in action, and it's thrilling, really, to see it. Any questions or comments further? Isaac, yes, Kathy, the librarian herself.
Who was on mute?
Who's on mute?
Kathy, you got to unmute.
There you
I
go.
forget things like that. We have a lovely little library, and people visiting from out of town say, "Isn't it cute? Isn't it sweet? Isn't it cozy, friendly?" It is. And you have so many good books. We do. But it's too cozy. And you all know that because you saw the picture in the Gazette where the children are piled on top of each other because there's no place else to go, and it was a very wet and unpleasant rainy day. But this building that was built in 1891 has been lovingly attended by each generation of trustees. And we've been fortunate to have them take such good care of it. Now it's our turn. So the planning in the building, we've been doing it for a long time. In my mind, I've been doing it since the day we opened the bathroom door to the public. That was the last building project, which was about 20 years ago. And I've been plotting this ever since. What I'm looking for is a meeting space that's big enough for 8 people to not have to sit around the little blue table and key chairs. It's big enough for being able to spread the paint out, not worrying about painting the books. And it's big enough to hold all those wonderful books that people marvel at without having to discard them almost as soon as I buy them, because I buy new ones that other people want to read. That's the part I hate about this job, is discarding books. It's that space is really important, but what's also important is the building itself. It's really something that I love, that people who use the library love, and that people who come by the town love it. And I want to stay there. And I don't think it's too much money to think about, although G.W. Franklin built it for $300 in 1891. I think it's time for us to get on to expanding it, making G.W. Franklin proud of it.
Thank you, Kathy. Isaac, did you find that drawing?
I'm sorry, what?
I was asking Isaac if he found.
Oh, Peter's going to have to give me some authority here to share it, I think.
And then on that, I think we can conclude, because we have other business for the town to take care of tonight.
Wait, so do you want me to show that or not?
Yeah.
Rich?
Yes, just to show the current design,
All right.
the current draft design.
Yeah, I can take 2 minutes to do that, but Peter has to give me the
Yeah,
floor
I
here.
figure out how to do it from here.
Well, maybe we don't have to do it then.
Yeah.
I guess Peter, we can't do it right now. You can't give him permission to.
Well, I have to make him host, and then he'd have to make me.
I can, if you make me host, I'll send it right back to you, Peter. Just a second. I don't think it does. If somebody comes in, I'll admit them. How does that sound?
Okay. Yep. So you should have ability at the moment.
Okay.
And while Isaac is searching for the drawing, is there any other question or comments?
So if you haven't seen this already, I think a lot of people on the call have seen this, but obviously, I don't know if you can see my pointer here. Let me see if I can make it bigger. This is the existing library. Existing library is kind of white. These aren't the final colors. This is just a rendering. But this is the addition that sets offset. You can see it here, offset in the back. This is the look from the corner of Carpenter Hill Road and here from the corner of Carpenter Hill Road and Guilford Center. Oops, sorry. And this is the look in the back where somebody pointed out the parking along Carpenter Hill is here. And this would be sort of the entrance to the downstairs community room space. And then there's an elevator and stair just inside here to access the first floor of the library. So basically we're doubling the size of the library. So we're adding about a 800 square foot addition on here to double the size of the library. So
Thank you, Isaac.
Yep.
Okay, can we go back? You make Peter the host, and then I can see.
I will. I'll figure out how to make Richard.
Are there any final comments or questions?
So I think just one thing that's important for this is just a reminder to everyone that 4 years ago, the Guilford Selectboard dedicated $300,000 of town funds to this project, even before this feasibility study was undertaken, and even the grant for the feasibility study was applied for. So this is not something that is new, and is something that the Select Board, multiple iterations of the Select Board, has believed in and put money behind.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, is that
Sheila?
Sheila? Yeah.
I just want to say that a couple things. One is the finance committee took the funding from the capital improvement plan into consideration, as did your finance figures. And the then estimate of $18,000 a year was based just on the loan, not on the amount of money that the town was going to put in. So I would also urge, I think, on behalf of the Finance Committee, if the town decides to go ahead with funding this, and I'm not sure if this is a select board decision or a town meeting decision, but if the town does decide to go ahead with this, the challenge to the community to figure out how to deliver services equitably, and to more of the Guilford residents, and to support all of the nonprofits is not going to go away. I think it's one that the select board and the town should take up. And I've had a few notes from people since our October meeting that the Finance Committee convened, of people really encouraged by what's happened among the nonprofits since that meeting was convened, and how much people are talking. And I would personally urge people to consider continue doing that. And finally, Isaac, I'm just going to say that it was Katie who recommended the town office site and contiguous property or adjacent properties for a multi-purpose building. It didn't come from the Finance Committee only. It was just presented as that decision. So it's just broader thinking that the Finance Committee is asking the town to do. And thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Anyone else?
Richard, I have one last comment.
Yes.
So the one last thing I just want to point out, just as far as the process relating to this project, is what would have to happen is the select board would have to decide to put this up before town residents at town meeting day. This final decision cannot be made legally by the select board, because the town would need to seek additional financing for a portion of the project. And state statute explicitly states that it must be on the ballot. It will not be discussed on the floor. It will be an item on the ballot should this select board decide to move forward with it in that manner.
Thank you, Peter. All right, thanks. Thank you all. We're going to proceed with our meeting now. The next on the agenda is the quarterly review of the town's capital. Zon, did you have a question or comment? No. Okay. The quarterly review of the capital plan.
Are you looking at me?
Yeah.
So we have been progressing along on.
Can you put it up on the screen?
I could if you just, I didn't have it immediately in front of me.
It's in the folder.
Yep, I'm just bringing it up. I just didn't have it brought up. I'm just gonna switch screens since I'm working on two screens here. So Isaac has left the meeting and I am not host, so I cannot screen share at the moment.
Okay, well, you want to.
So anyhow, so just in brief, as part of the FY22 capital plan, just as a brief overview, since I can't show it to you, for the highway department, we were to purchase 2 trucks. One was one of the 1-ton trucks, and the second was a brand new dump truck, both of which the select board has approved, and we have purchased from funds on hand with no financing. And so the highway department is using those. Another item related to the highway department is the repair of the bridge on River Road near Jelly Mill Road. The town has received some grant funding to assist with that. I will be working with Dan and putting out an RFP to solicit bids for that project in the spring. Secondly, also for the highway department, it's been a big year for the highway department this year. Also for the highway department is a renovation of the exterior of the building, which began last year. The
garage.
Sorry, the garage. Thank you, Richard. Last year, the select board put a new roof on this 35-year-old building, and now this year we are siding it due to COVID and labor shortages, our contractor is about a month behind on the project, but I received an email from him today that they will be starting the project next week, and anticipate it will take about 2 weeks to complete. And last but not least, on the capital plan for this year is the project we just finished discussing with the library, and that's in progress.
And the major funding for that has come from
the CDBG grant.
The CDBG grant, right?
So that's the brief, 4-minute overview of the capital plan to date. All of those funds to pay for all these projects are either on hand or are grant funds to fund them.
Do select board members have any questions about our quarterly review of the capital plan? Anyone?
I made you the host. You should be able to share that if you want to.
Okay. Do you want me to share? Are you okay now?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, moving right along. Quarterly review of the select board's goals.
I was expecting the select board would talk about that since they're your
okay,
goals.
well, can you put those up?
I will put those up, yep. Let me just share my screen. Goals. All right, and it doesn't want to show you. Sorry, I'm working on 2 screens here.
There we go.
All right. So
we have been working on these goals. Some of the goals we have paid, I wouldn't say paid more attention to, but have had time to work on. What is it? Someone has a.
We're seeing your Google Drive right now.
You're seeing. All right, hold on one second. Apparently you guys are seeing the wrong screen. Oh, look at that. Sorry about that.
Okay,
Can you guys see that now?
yes.
Okay, my apologies.
Verandah and Zon, do you want to sort of lead the discussion on this since you are our leads on the annual goals? I guess not. Well, first, did I have a yes or Zon?
Sure. I mean, I think that well, we can just put it up on the screen so that people can see our overarching concepts here. There are 6 of them, and how we're going to then, during the course of this year, our plan is to use concrete steps to advance each of those 6 points. I see 3 of them up on the screen now, and there are 3 others. And so maybe just give people a chance to read the far left bolded is next to the numbers. And then in each of the columns following those bolded topics is some who's basic, what's the basic project that we would be doing? What are some basic concepts around how we might measure our projects, our process? And then the third column is what are some of the actual tasks that we would do related to each of those. 4th column, who is responsible, and then 5th column is some resources for us to be able to do our work. So yes, we're making some various. I'm not prepared at this moment to speak about exactly what we have done with regard to each of these, but we are looking at this and watching it as we go along.
And we certainly, in regard to the one that we're looking at right now, broadband, I think that you could speak to that, Zon.
Certainly, Guilford is poised, as are 23 other towns in southeastern Vermont, to move into the 21st century, like much of the rest of the nation in the next while. And it looks as if, all things being considered, it might be possible for Guilford to be fully connected with high speed, meaning 100 up, 100 down internet in 2 or 3 years at the outside. The original plan that we entered into this project called for Guilford to be completed in about 10 years. So that because of ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds, we are able to move that timeline quite a bit forward. So things are moving very quickly there, actually.
Thank you. And in regard to the select board is active, open, and transparent, we're certainly active, I would say. We have been active from the beginning of the fiscal year to now. And I would like to think that we have been open and transparent. Our meetings are open. They're promulgated on Front Porch Forum and posted where they should be. We only go into executive session when we are discussing personnel matters or other matters that are legislated to require us to go into executive session. I'm just looking at the third column, clarify roles. What would an acceptable, friendly uptick in service look like?
Oh, and Richard, I wanted to talk about encouraging community conversations, bringing together residents and people with diverse strengths to unify and support our residents around these goals.
Yeah.
I think that, we do have a town with very diverse opinions, and I also believe that tonight is an example of all people with really goodwill trying to share perspectives about what would support the greater good for most of those residents, for the most residents. And I would like to believe that both personally and in our work as a select board, that we are reaching out and we are receptive to people, and that we receive feedback and we try to respond personally and with an open mind to what people have to say to us.
Yes, numerous select board members receive emails and telephone calls, and I'm assured that the response is quick and articulate. Also, we have at least 2 public meetings coming up. Isn't that correct?
Yep.
Or is it 3? So to discuss various aspects.
Yes, technically 3.
There are 3 public meetings, which we want the public to be with us, be with the select board, so that the select board can have input on important issues that are facing our town. So I think that speaks to that particular goal. Where are we now?
Let's, Richard.
Yes, Don.
I would say regarding number 3, that it would be important for the community to understand that the select board meets with each of the 4 commissions in the town on a regular basis. We have a schedule that's developed, and the select board hears from each of the commissions during the course of the year, so that we can just stay in touch and learn what's going on in the commissions and make sure that everything's according to our overall values and ideas that we have moving forward. And I would like to then point out, if I may, we've talked about a little bit about number 4, which is the capital plan, but then number 5, which is an issue that Sheila has brought up this evening, is the importance of our connections with the various nonprofits and community organizations here in town. The select board feels very strongly about this, I would say, and that it's our intention to make sure that we are hearing and connecting with the community organizations. We also are open to hearing from them as well during the course of the year. We often do, so it's an important role for us to have. And I personally would feel very strongly about the idea of facilitating and opening as many of these kinds of conversations, cross-community organization conversations, as Guilford could bear. It would only be good for us all.
Mm-hmm. And just adding to that, I think both as individuals and representatives of the select board, we volunteer and participate with some of these community groups that are listed here. volunteering with Guilford Cares, with writing for the Gazette, connecting with the school, participating in the neighborhood food collective, whom we've also invited to come and report directly to the select board. So I think both as individuals and as members of, formal and informal liaisons from the select board, we're trying always to connect.
Thank you. And regarding number 6, the select board advocates for resident safety. We have a very exciting scoping study that is being done for the pedestrian bicycle path that will be even more, that will enhance the beauty and the functionality of Guilford Central Village. That study is underway. It's grant funded by the Federal Highway Department and VTrans, and that should turn out to be, we hope, a beautiful corridor that connects the key places in Guilford Central Village.
And that's one of the upcoming public meetings.
And that's one of the upcoming public meetings, as Peter has just pointed out. So are there any, select board, any questions or comments on our quarterly review? I think
I just wanted to say one more thing. I certainly feel as if we can improve.
Yeah.
I believe that each of us and all of us can learn from our experience and to be even more attentive to knowing where we are in terms of where we need to go.
Thank you. Any other comments? Very good. On to the warrants.
Okay. I move that we pay the following warrants. Payroll week 12, 1921 for the sum of $7,358.40. Payroll week 12, 26, 21 for the sum of $8,546.41. Expense warrant number 2212 for the sum of $82,215.69 for a grand total of $98,120.50.
Do I have a motion, a second? Thank you, John. Is there any discussion?
Yes, the large items were 2 different forms of insurance, and the payment to the volunteer fire department, and also payment to the Conservation Commission for their biodiversity study.
Great. Is there any further discussion? Questions? I will take the roll then. Verandah?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Zahn?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. The warrants are approved. Thank you very much, Verandah. Other business. Now it's okay. It's Verandah's poem to Guilford elders.
Okay. Well, I hope people have the stamina to listen to a poem after all of our serious deliberations. This is called Heart to Hearth 2021. This epic year is nearly gone. Though Delta mates with Omicron, new snow shimmers on the lawn, so reach for joy and soldier on. Watch children bundle up to learn. They carry wood, a fire burns, simmering the roots they grew. Their hearts are hardy as the stew. Tend what's old and make it sound. Raise the grange hall, set it down, stronger ever than before. Let spirits dance across the floor. Ken and Pat, who drilled our well. Mimi, who picked chanterelles. Marjorie back with Emery, promenade through memory. Lucy and Abijah Prince driven out and honored since, for eloquence and bravery, remark their place in history. Batten down against the wind, settle in with kith and kin beside the hearth, below the stars, spring for sweetness where we are.
Beautiful. Thank you, Verandah.
Thank you. Very
And I hope
nice.
that gets to our elders. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Any communications, Peter, to share?
I have none.
All right, action from the previous meeting.
The select board approved a new 3-year contract with our fiscal auditors. You approved a public records policy. You regretfully declined the offer from the Guilford Historical Society about the meeting house. And I was to work with Richard on drafting that said letter to the Historical Society. As far as actions taken tonight, you approved the capital payment to the Guilford Volunteer Fire Department, and there are no follow-up actions at this time.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion? Zon, what could it be?
I would like to make a motion, Richard, that we adjourn.
Okay, thank you. And do I have a second?
I will second that.
Rusty, thank you very much. Is there any discussion?
Yes, it's been a pleasure to be here this evening. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you very much. And the pleasure is ours. Okay, I shall take the roll. Verandah?
Aye, and greetings from Brooklyn.
Thank you. Have a good time. Rusty?
Aye.
Zon?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. The motion is carried and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for being here.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.